Hello, everyone. I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to attend our first and what I hope is a series of webinars on different financial planning topics. This first one is on Roth conversions and some strategic ways we can implement those in portfolios. And so, honestly, I'm thrilled at the number of people who signed up. It exceeded our wildest expectations. So thank you so much. I appreciate you and everything you do for us at DFS Advisors. I just wanted to start by mentioning that the video will be recorded. You guys are muted. There's nothing recording on your end, just on ours. So I wanted to let you know that in advance, but we hope to be able to send you a copy afterward. As we go through, we'll have different points where we do a Q&A session. Unfortunately, the way we have to do it is through text. So if you see our number at the bottom, if you will text us your questions throughout the webinar and then at different times that we have set aside for answering those, we'll go ahead and answer those as we can. Please take a moment to read our disclosures. As part of our demonstration, we're presenting a sample scenario that will be different from your individual situation. So please don't look at it and say, "Wow, I can this works real well for me. I'm doing it." You want to make sure that it actually does make sense for you and your personal situation and circumstances. So give us a call if you decide this is something that you'd be interested in doing for yourselves. Let us talk about it first with you. So some of you may be familiar with Roth accounts. Some of you have them. Some of you maybe have no idea what a Roth account even is. So we're going to start with what they are, some real basic information. What is a Roth conversion? What are the tax implications of doing those and some of the benefits of them as well? After I lay that foundation for you, we'll then go into a case study. And during that case study, we'll demonstrate our new planning tool we have available right now. So what is a Roth IRA? Well, before going into what a Roth IRA is, let me start with a traditional IRA. The reason I do that is because many people are familiar with those. If not a traditional IRA, then a 401k or a 403b if you work for a government organization. So traditional IRA, 401k, I'm going to call those pre-tax accounts. And the main concept with those is that you put money aside today and get a tax benefit today. You don't pay taxes every year on it. The growth that happens, normally you might pay tax on your dividends, your income, any capital gains. And these retirement accounts, you don't. And so when do you pay taxes? Well, for a traditional IRA or for a 401k, you pay tax when you take the money out. And so that's the way those work is tax benefit when you put the money in, tax deferred, and then when you take money out, that's when you end up paying the taxes. So to help encourage people to save for retirement, they came out with a Roth IRA. Now, IRA, I should mention, is just individual retirement account. So we'll use that acronym pretty frequently. And so again, goal being, we want people to save for their own retirement. We have Social Security. A lot of people don't have pensions anymore, and Social Security is likely not enough. And so we want to encourage people. I say we, the government wants to encourage people to save for retirement. And so this other kind of account came out and named after a man with the name of Roth. And it works sort of backwards from the 401k or traditional IRA model. So money you put into a Roth IRA does not get any special tax treatment in that year. The growth is still tax deferred, but the advantage is when you retire, the money comes out tax free. So there are some things to think about with traditional IRAs, and Roth IRAs have a early withdrawal penalty. If you're not at least 59 and a half, then they penalize you on your tax return. The contributions amounts are the same as $7,000 plus $1,000 if you're over age 50. Interestingly, you cannot do $7,000 in a traditional IRA and $7,000 in a Roth IRA. $1,000 aggregated across both. It must come from earned income. So if you're already retired, you're not really working, you can't take money from your bank account and put it into your Roth IRA. It has to be money that you have earned through labor. And then there are income phase outs. For a Roth IRA, it just phases out completely where you can no longer contribute. And for a traditional IRA, it phases out the ability to deduct the contribution. You could still put money in, We usually don't recommend it because then you have to track what money was pre-tax money, what money was already tax money, and it creates a headache basically for life trying to track that. So, a couple interesting things that's unique to a Roth IRA is that your contributions can be withdrawn at any time. And so you, with the traditional IRA or 401k, those contributions were pre-tax. And so if you try to take those out, they treat it as if it was the same as growth. You take the money out and when you take the money out, you will have to pay tax on it and the penalty. With the Roth IRA, anything that's contributed, you can immediately take out if you need to. The growth needs to stay in the account, but the contribution can be taken out at any time. Another thing about a Roth IRA that's a little bit of an odd rule is that you cannot take money out of a Roth IRA in the first 5 years that the account is open. So if you have a Roth IRA anywhere, at a certain company and you open another account, that's okay. The 5 year number does not reset. But when you first open a Roth IRA account, you can't take the money out within the first 5 years. So I know that was kind of a quick crash course in the two types of IRAs. Just to summarize it, both traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs are meant for retirement savings. The traditional IRA gives you the tax benefit up front, but you pay taxes on the distributions during retirement. And for a Roth IRA, you don't get the tax benefit up front. The contributions are after tax, but the money that comes out during retirement is tax-free. So the natural question people ask, because that sounds like a great deal, tax-free income in retirement, how can I get money from my pre-tax bucket to my tax-free bucket? And the answer is with Roth conversion. So it really is a relatively simple process. If you don't have a Roth account open already, you open a Roth account, and then you go to wherever your pre-tax money is, whether it's a 401k or traditional IRA, and you do the paperwork to move the money from that account into the Roth account. When you do that, then the company that holds your pre-tax account will create a 1099-R as if it was a retirement distribution. You mark it as a rollover on your tax return. Roth conversion on your tax return. So there's no penalties, but you do pay tax on that contribution in the year or on the conversion of the year you convert it. If you have assets under our management, it's as simple as us filling out the forms and sending you a DocuSign and having you do a few clicks, and then everything transfers over. So sounds like a great deal. What's the cost? Well, the cost is, like I said, the tax is due in the year of conversion. You're not going to want to take $1 million pre-tax account, traditional IRA, whatever, and convert all of that to a Roth account in a given year, because now you have $1 million of taxable income. So you want to do it in a way that tries to minimize your taxes over the long haul. So when might you want to do a Roth conversion? Well, if you think your tax rate is going to be higher in retirement, that tends to not be the case for a lot of people, but because you go from working, making a lot of money, to retirement where maybe you don't need to spend as much. But especially younger people that maybe have a 401k and they move to a new job and then they don't make a lot of money yet because they're still younger, maybe it makes sense to move that old 401k into a Roth IRA, pay the tax that year, and have decades of tax-free growth. If you want more control, over your withdrawals, you can see on the slide, it talks about required minimum distributions, RMDs. We're going to use that acronym RMD quite a bit through the presentation. It's just pre-tax accounts have distributions that you're required to take at a certain point, and it's a certain minimum amount that's calculated each year based on your age and based on the account values. Roth IRAs don't have those, so it gives you a little bit more control. And then if you want to pass tax-free assets to your beneficiaries, a Roth IRA is a great way of doing it. Some things to consider. You really want to determine from your facts and circumstances in a given year whether you want to do a Roth conversion or not. We can take a look at your tax situation and say, this might be a good year to do one, or maybe this year's a terrible year. But it really depends on you. You don't want to just say, I'm going to do a Roth conversion every year for the next 5 years, because your tax situation might change year to year, and you're going to want to make that decision each year based on the facts and circumstances of where you are. Other issues that you might want to consider: once you are required to take RMDs, those have to come out first before you can do a Roth conversion. So you can't convert your RMD number into a Roth account. That's not allowed. The IRS has their hand out for tax money, and they don't want you to move it into the Roth and then have that account grow tax free forever. So you have to take your RMD first, and then if you want to do a Roth conversion on top of that, you can. But again, now you're sort of adding more to taxable income. You may consider not doing it in a year you have an RMD requirement. Also, if you are under age 59 and a half, when you do a Roth conversion, you have to leave the money in there at least 5 years or until you reach age 59 and a half. The reason they do that is because, like I said earlier, if you put money into a traditional IRA and then you go to take that money out, there's a 10% tax penalty. So a little loophole people figured out was, oh, what I'll do is I'll take that contribution, I'll move it over into a Roth account. And then remember, contributions in Roth accounts aren't taxed. So they'll move that money over with a Roth conversion and then pay the tax on the conversion and then take the money out of the Roth IRA and not pay a tax penalty. And so as a way of avoiding that 10% tax penalty, the IRS said, no, can't do that. So if you do a Roth conversion and you're under 59 and a half, you have to wait 5 years after the conversion before you can take the money out without a tax penalty. So little things like that are some of the things that people should consider before deciding I want to do a Roth conversion. So what do the taxes look like? Well, you pay ordinary income tax at your tax rate in the year it was converted. That's why I say if you have a low income year, it might be a good time to do it. What are some issues you could come up with? Well, it could push you into a higher tax bracket. It could affect your Medicare premiums. Remember that Medicare determines your premium by looking 2 years ago. And so if you do a conversion this year, 2025, in 2027, they'll look at your income and say, wow, you had a higher income that year from the Roth conversion, and maybe it affects your Medicare premiums. So while we never really know, if some of you guys are tax clients and you've heard me say this, you don't really know your tax situation until we do your tax return. We can make estimations and we can look and say, we think your income's going to look like this, but if it's in March or April, it's hard to know what your final tax situation is going to look like in December. So what we can do though is use an estimation to try to figure out, what could you convert and maybe stay under a certain tax bracket or try to avoid IRMA, Medicare premiums, surcharges, that kind of thing. So when should you do a Roth conversion? When is it a bad idea? I've sort of hinted at some of these before, but it really is a bad idea to do if you're currently working. One of the things you do when you work is put money into a retirement account, 401ks, traditional IRAs, not only to have money set aside for retirement, but to also save on taxes during the current year because you're making good money most likely, and you don't want to pay more taxes than you should. In fact, one of the things that people say about the power of 401ks, the power of traditional IRAs, is you save money now while you're making good money, and then when you take the money out later, you might be at a lower tax bracket and pay less in taxes on that. So maybe you don't want to do Roth conversions while you're working. However, here's the problem. If you just say, well, why would I want to do them at all? I don't want to pay more taxes than I have to in a given year. You have RMDs looming large at age 73 or 75. The rule is fluctuated there. It's currently 73. That's coming. And so if you have a traditional IRA or a 401k, and those can be pretty large, for a lot of people, they even can be more than they spend than they need for retirement. So a lot of times, many clients will take the money, take what they need from their RMD, and then put the rest into a different kind of like a brokerage account or something to keep it invested in the market, keep growing and that kind of thing. They don't need it for their bank account, but you still have to pay the tax on it. And so that's something that you want to sort of consider that, yeah, okay, maybe your taxes are lower now, but they're going to be really high later. Is there a way to sort of smooth that out some? And so a sweet spot would be maybe after you retire, but before RMDs, before starting Social Security, when all you're really doing is taking money from your accounts to live off of, your income might be substantially less in those years, and a Roth conversion could really make sense to help minimize future taxable income when RMDs are required. So as you can see on the slide, here's some key benefits for doing Roth conversions. You're adding money to your tax-free bucket. in retirement. And so this can give you flexibility to smooth out your taxes. If you're in a year, for some reason, you have a high tax year, then and you need money from your retirement accounts, maybe taking it out of the Roth bucket will at least give you money without having to pay more taxes than you already are. On the other hand, in a year that you have lower income, it might not make sense to take money from the tax-free bucket. Let's leave the money in the Roth IRA to grow and take money from your or your traditional IRA and recognize that you will have taxes there, but you're already in a low tax year, so they won't be as burdensome as they would be otherwise. I've mentioned this a few times that when you convert money, when you do a Roth conversion, the money that's moved to the Roth account, you pay tax then, but all the growth from that point forward is tax free. So you've moved money from a bucket that the growth is being taxed to a bucket where the growth is not being taxed. They don't have RMD requirements. So traditional IRA, 401k, you're going to be required to take money out at 73 or 75, depending on your age. But for Roth IRAs, there is no RMD requirement. So you can leave the money in there to continue growing tax-free indefinitely. And finally, I mentioned estate planning a little bit earlier. Let me go into a little bit of detail on that. The retirement accounts, whether it's pre-tax or Roth, under current tax law, and all this is current tax law, of course, that can always change. There is a 10-year rule that you have to empty the account as an heir. So if you pass away and you pass on your IRA, whether it's a Roth account or a traditional account, you pass them on to your heir, they have to empty the account in 10 years. So pre-tax account, like a 401k or an IRA, they have to pay the tax on it. But again, current rules, the RMD has to be taken out each year based on their income level. And at the 10th year, whatever's left in the account has to be taken out. What might happen is years 1 through 9, it's a small amount, maybe not even enough to affect their taxes too much. And then year 10, it's a large amount to empty the account out, and it bumps them up a few tax brackets. Maybe even paying more in taxes than you would have had you done a Roth conversion for it. Or maybe they say, I'm going to be a little more, I want to level it out a little bit more. Maybe they do 1/10 a year for the 10 years. Either way, that might, for 10 years, push them into a higher tax bracket. And they end up paying more in taxes on that than they would have otherwise. So the advantage of the Roth for them is while there is still a 10-year rule, there is no RMD requirement. They can leave the money in there for 10 years and then empty the account in the 10th year. If they need it right away, maybe they're doing house renovations or something, they can take the money out right away. Or they could spread it out evenly over 10 years, however they want to do it. The benefit is it's tax-free. So if they wait to the 10th year, take it all out at once, they won't pay income tax on it. So, as you can see, if you want to leave heirs to some tax-free accounts, this Roth account is a good way of doing that. So I'm going to hand the reins over to Max for the next part of our presentation. He's going to go over a case study, demonstrate how we can use our financial planning tool to help determine if Roth conversions can be beneficial to you. Before doing so, I just want to check. Okay, so far no questions have come in. Remember that you can text us 980-444-0330. And if you have any questions, since we don't have any questions right now, Max, if you'll go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Hopefully you can hear me. I almost did not mute myself or unmute myself. Hello for everybody. This is more than likely the first time that you guys are seeing me. For a handful of you guys, hello again. So like Aaron said, I'm just going to go over the case study. And right now, I'm trying to keep it as broad stroke general as I can. So we made a profile for Mr. and Mrs. Sample. Just for simplicity here, age 65. We're going to base this all on Mr. Sample's age. He called into the office, asked about some Roth conversions, how it can help his family's wealth, tax picture, and everything like that. He has a large sum of money as a household from the traditional IRAs or pre-tax accounts with the 401ks at work. On the screen, if you guys had to take a picture, this would be the screen to take a picture of. There's one other one later on, but these are the 4 questions that we really want to ask pretty much every year, especially once we get started, is what are the other income sources that we're looking at? Do you have a full-time job? Do you have a side hustle, part-time job? Are we selling stuff on Etsy that we have to report? Did you turn on any annuities? Have you already started pulling from your pre-tax accounts, or have you started the Social Security side of it? And then again, we need to reassess, are we going to, maybe not now, but in the future, take a part-time job? That may change exactly how we look at your specific situation, but for Mr. Sample, there are no part-time jobs in here. The reason we have to do that is question number 3, really make sure that we're converting as much as we possibly can within some guidelines. Typically we convert and we calculate, hey, this is how much we can do at this time based off of your income, based off of the next month's income, and then optimize that much, moving it over. And then also, because ideally we would like to delay Social Security, and I'll show you why, making sure that we can optimize how much more we would be getting in Social Security for delaying it, whether we're taking it at 67, at full retirement age, or at age 70. So sorry for talking kind of fast, but this is just a picture. You don't need to take a picture of this one, but this is what that conversation, when we put all the data into the system, this is what it shows us. And what we would like to see for the examples here is this kind of steep or precipitous drop that's coming off of how much we're paying in taxes. And we want it to go as low as possible. So right at that red arrow, Mr. and Mrs. Sample are retiring around the same time frame. And as you can see, that green, just to remember, green is always going to be Roth conversions for our example today, is going to basically flatline across. That blue is if we don't do the Roth conversions. It just continuously climbs up with cost of living adjustments, with annuity, inflation, income growth on that side of it, and your RMDs just continually grow over time. And this is what happens when we turn everything on at the same time. So maybe we are still working, we have a part-time job, and then we're going to retire and start it all at the same time. We're going to start pulling on our RMDs. We're going to start taking Social Security, annuities, everything gets turned on right when we retire. This constant move upward is really going to make it difficult for us to do a Roth conversion. So again, this is what we would like to see. This may not be so ideal, especially for our example today. Now, this is the other screen I would want you guys to take a picture of, just to make sure we have a checklist. You don't need to know. We'll ask you just based off of our conversations that we've had. Aaron has spoken to all of you guys several times, but really we need to look at this and you guys need to know what these answers are for you. How big are the pre-tax accounts? Okay. Are we needing to take the Social Security, or are we planning on just starting it at a certain or set predetermined time frame? Are we still working full time? Is the money for you, or is it for the beneficiaries, for your kids? Is this a legacy kind of a strategy? The reason that we see a blue check mark and a red X is because at that point we're planning for the kids. Do you feel like you're in a strong enough place, especially with sufficient enough savings, to really eat some of those taxes that may come up unless we withhold them on the withholdings when we do the conversion? The other one is, are we thinking of retiring early? At that point in time, we probably did a lot of planning beforehand, but that is a very, very favorable time. And then also, if you are not touching any of the pre-tax accounts. So again, take a picture of this one. We're going to send you the slides later, the recording, but I want to just go over to the actual software. Now, this, when you guys get your own login, Mr. and Mrs. Sample have theirs, so I'm inside of their portfolio and profile. This is what you would see immediately. The snapshot here is going to say, based off of our current plan or whatever plan that we're on, what's the likelihood of success? So for Mr. and Mrs. Sample, we're at 87. Everybody's favorite big number here is the net worth. I tried to make it as simple as possible. Everything is added in here and subtracted out with assets and liabilities. I feel like a lot of us know how that works, especially the ones that are on the call. And Aaron has spoken in length to what effective tax rates are, especially since he's done most of our taxes in this call right now. And then this is everybody's favorite, the blue cone. This is what's called a Monte Carlo simulation. Best case, worst case, what we really need to see is, where does that solid dark blue line go? That's the 50th percentile, not too high, not too low, just right in the middle. And then I speak in, especially when I talk to my clients, in images and pictures. So my favorite part of this is going to be this little pie chart down here. Okay, the tax allocation summary. The blue is anything non-retirement, checking, savings, trust accounts, just anything non-retirement, joint accounts, individuals, that whole thing. This is going to be the orange sleeve. The idea with the Roth conversions is to move everything from this big orange sleeve into the green. The green, again, is the Roth account, tax-free kind of investments, okay? So again, moving everything from the orange over to the green. So when you guys go ahead and log into this, you're going to see a couple of different things, and this may look confusing, so I apologize, I'm talking a little quick, but we have the Roth conversion strategy and then the current plan. And again, the current plan is going to be listed in here, retire at age 67, and it's simplified down that the only variable that we're going to touch on today is whether we should or should not delay Social Security and doing a Roth conversion. We already know that we're going to do it. We already planned it out. It's at $70,000. At age 67, if we know that that's what we're going to work until, we need to make sure that we're timing everything up correctly. At age 67, we're going to start to do these Roth conversions. And it's being voted on right now. It's not official, but age 75 will be the new RMD age. It'll just move back a bit. So we don't want to double that up. As Aaron shared before, taking the RMD out and then doing a Roth conversion on top of it may alter our tax picture. So we're going to try to stop it and then play it by ear at that point in time. So start time, end time. All right. This is all going to be coded in as the Roth conversions. But right now, just doing it as we can see right now, not changing anything other than just turning on these Roth conversions, it is actually more beneficial to do it in the long run. Now, that's middle of the road. Age 67 is full retirement age. If we start to play with this and say, what happens if we just delay it 3 years? That's the only change we're going to make. How does this actually impact my overall financial future? And it dramatically increases our probability of success, yes, but our overall ending value of the accounts, right? Most of the money is moving over into the Roth. It's not being taxed again. A lot of the money is coming out tax deferred with the RMDs, whatever we don't get to. But what everybody really cares about, this is an overall tax strategy, is yes, we're left with more assets, but how much less am I going to pay in taxes? Again, the only thing that we're doing is delaying Social Security by 3 years. So we'll just come down here and say, okay, this is what we're doing. This green, again, is Roth conversions. This is how much we're paying in taxes. All right. And eventually it'll stop and come down here. And kind of, yes, it'll still start to increase because we didn't get all of the money out of those pre-tax accounts or tax deferred accounts. So yes, we still have some RMDs, but they are significantly less. We still have a $200,000 projected tax benefit for doing this and delaying Social Security to age 70. So if we added them up with the overall benefits and trade-offs, we have a $200,000 tax benefit, and then 150, you can round it, of a overall ending net balance increase in all of your retirement accounts or just overall net worth. So it's around a 850 projected benefit. But let's just say we go the other direction, right? We went all the way far extreme. What if we delay it all the way as far as we can? What happens if we go the other side of it and say we're going to start it as early as we can, which is at 62? So as you can see, yeah, it is a very nice tax move, right? And I'll show you guys that soon, but this is the first trade-off that we see with this decision. Now, we have less overall assets. The reason being is we front-loaded a lot of those taxes while we now added Social Security into our income picture. And now we're just bumping ourselves up in a tax and the overall tax side of things, paying a little bit too much, and we didn't actually see the benefit on the other side of it when it comes to the overall account balances. But the good thing is, because we had that extra cash flow coming in, we didn't have to dip too much into our reserves. Everything was able to still cash flow. We overall paid less in taxes by, almost 50%. But when we net them, hold them side by side and net them all together, we paid almost $300,000 less in taxes but we have $177,000 projected less net asset values in our accounts. So the value is actually much, much less favorable for somebody turning on the Social Security aspect early. So I didn't want to go too deep into it. We can spend, Aaron and I have spent countless hours inside of the black box here. So I want to try to avoid that. But this is something that we can do for you guys if you did want us to go through this for you. And again, these are the main questions that you need to ask yourself. All right. Outside of the example, outside of the sample and the case study, who is this money really for? Are you guys okay with the sufficient savings? Do we really need to have the Social Security turned on right now? Or are we okay with delaying? So again, this is one of those pictures that I would want you guys to take and start thinking about. But that was really all I had. Aaron, do we have any questions text in?
So the only question we've had so far is that the new Right Capital tool looks pretty nice. How much does it cost? Which is a good, fair question. The cost, the way I like to equate the cost is that it depends. It's very much like how we do tax returns. A simple tax return has a lower cost, more complicated tax return, higher cost because the extra forms that we have to do and the extra work that's involved. So the same thing with this. And there are other factors as well. If you have assets under our management, we're planning on offering discounts for people that have assets with us and different breakpoints depending on where you're how much asset, how many assets, how much asset you have with us. It could even lower it down to free. So, but to give you a number for the amount of work involved and things of that nature, it's around $3,700. But again, like I said, if you have a more complicated case, it could go higher. If your case is easier, it might even go a little bit lower. And if you have assets with us, it will be lower. And we do offer a discounted rate for those people as well. Let me just check to see if any other questions have come in besides that one. They have not at this point. So Max, if you'll go ahead and go ahead and finish up for us.
Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an analogy here. Most people know who Michael Jordan is. Great basketball player, but even he had a coach. Think of us. I'm not going to sit here and say I am an Aaron, and it's not Phil Jackson. Okay, we can't play basketball. But if Michael Jordan had a coach, call us, check in with us. Does this actually make sense? We can calibrate even down to a couple $100 as to how much we can convert for you guys. Feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, shoot us an email. It is perfectly fine. That's what we're here for. We have the team set up to go ahead and do it. So that was really all I had. Thank you guys for sacrificing 30, 35 minutes with us today out of your day. Our contact info is below. Shoot us a text, an email, schedule time with Aaron and I, or just me or just Aaron. And again, thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. And like I said in the beginning, I appreciate you taking the time. It is very humbling to us that you took time out of your day to come with us and on this journey. And I hope that the next one we have, you will come again. Thank you, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.